Finally, from Kim K to Pharrell, celebs love the Tesla Cybertruck, but it didn't go down too well in Manchester. Police in Whitefield seized one of the vehicles for not being road legal in the UK.
A Tesla Cybertruck rolled into Manchester, and within minutes it was pulled over and impounded. No accident, no protest, just flashing lights and a legal takedown. The reason? It didn't meet the minimum safety or compliance standards for European roads. And suddenly, the myth of the Cybertruck, this indestructible machine of the future, hit a legal wall. That moment didn't just raise eyebrows. It exposed a deeper truth. Tesla never built the Cybertruck for Europe. And now, across the continent, regulators are turning it away. But what happens when your dream truck can't be insured, registered, or legally driven? What if your pre-order just became worthless overnight? And what does this mean for the future of Tesla and the roads we all share? What's happening? At first glance, the Cybertruck looks like something out of a sci-fi thriller. But that futuristic aesthetic wasn't just for show. It was central to its engineering. Tesla designed the Cybertruck with an exoskeleton made from 3mm thick cold-rolled stainless steel, a material so strong it was originally developed for SpaceX's Starship rocket. The angular, sharp-edged body wasn't just a stylistic choice, it was the only feasible way to shape the ultra-hard steel. But what works for space exploration doesn't always translate to terrestrial transportation. The United Kingdom requires all external vehicle parts to have a minimum rounding of 3.2 millimeters. This law exists for a reason, to minimize harm in the event of a collision with a pedestrian. Rounded surfaces absorb energy, while sharp edges can slice or pierce. The Cybertruck, with its aggressive lines and blade-like contours, violates this rule at nearly every point. To make matters worse, those edges are not decorative. They are structurally load-bearing. Rounding them off would require a complete redesign of the exoskeleton. And Tesla knew this. In fact, they filed patents for this exact design while being fully aware that it could never be legalized under current European pedestrian safety standards. That is not an oversight. It's a gamble. So why did Tesla go through with it? Because the Cybertruck was never engineered for the world. It was engineered for Elon Musk's vision, for the American desert, for the Mars colony fantasy, and for the kind of buyer who values symbolism over utility. That engineering choice, bold as it was, has now become the very thing keeping the Cybertruck out of entire continents. And as we follow the legal trail of regulatory clashes, the scope of the problem only grows. But before we dive into that, take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Among the Cybertruck's most cutting-edge innovations is its steer-by-wire system. Unlike traditional steering mechanisms, where the steering wheel is mechanically linked to the tires, steer-by-wire uses sensors and digital actuators to control the vehicle's direction. It is elegant, minimalistic, and completely incompatible with European law. The European Union, including the United Kingdom, mandates that all vehicles must retain a mechanical fallback for steering. This rule is not about resisting innovation. It is about ensuring driver control in the event of an electronic failure. Steer-by-wire systems, no matter how advanced, introduce a single point of failure. If the software glitches, the entire steering mechanism could become unresponsive. That is a risk regulators are not willing to accept. Tesla may argue that the system includes redundancies, backup power, and rigorous testing. But from the perspective of European safety agencies, none of that replaces the physical certainty of a mechanical connection. It is the same reason why aircraft, no matter how modern, still include manual override systems. When lives are at stake, trust in code alone doesn't cut it. And that is the crux of the matter. The Cybertruck may be the most ambitious vehicle Tesla has ever built, but ambition doesn't override regulation, especially not in regions where safety and compliance are non-negotiable. The steer-by-wire system may signal the future of driving in Silicon Valley, but on the roads of Europe, it signals a red flag, the lighting system that broke the law. The Cybertruck's full-width LED light bar was supposed to symbolize the future of driving, a clean, white streak slicing across the front of Tesla's most radical vehicle. But in Europe, that design choice didn't signal progress. It signaled non-compliance. According to European Union regulations, vehicle lights must meet strict standards for visibility, positioning, angle, brightness, and redundancy. The Cybertruck's monolithic light bar violated at least 6 of those. It failed to provide the necessary separation between different lighting functions. Brake lights, indicators, running lights, each must be positioned and angled independently to ensure clarity in low visibility conditions. In fog, rain, or glare, these standards are not just bureaucratic red tape, they save lives. Tesla, in its pursuit of visual drama, ignored the regulations that European engineers have followed for decades. And that decision was not made in ignorance. Documents show Tesla filed patents for compliant lighting systems, but ultimately chose not to use them. Why? Because they did not want to compromise the Cybertruck's signature look. The cost of retrofitting the vehicle to meet EU standards is staggering. Analysts estimate that modifying the front and rear sections to house compliant lighting would cost upward of 15,000 euros per vehicle. And that is assuming the structural steel body can even be reshaped without compromising the exoskeleton. Tesla's decision not to include a fallback system, like physical light housings or redundancy wiring, means the Cybertruck is effectively a digital blackout waiting to happen if its central lighting software fails. More damning is that even if Tesla wanted to fix it, the entire lighting system is so deeply integrated into the Cybertruck's identity that any change would alter the aesthetic, and possibly the brand appeal. European regulators were not impressed by the truck's cutting-edge visuals. They wanted tested, proven safety, and Tesla gave them a design that felt more at home in a sci-fi film than on a rainy British road. And when police in the United Kingdom pulled over that Cybertruck in Manchester, one of the first things cited was the non-compliant lighting. It was not just a minor detail, it was a primary reason the vehicle was impounded under Section 165 of the Road Traffic Act. From this lighting issue alone, it was clear the Cybertruck was not built for Europe, and the deeper we look, the more the entire design philosophy clashes with decades of safety-first engineering. But that lighting issue? It was just the beginning. Because what really unnerves European regulators is not what the Cybertruck lights up, it's what happens when it crashes. When strength becomes a threat made from ultra-hardened 30x cold-rolled stainless steel, the same alloy used in SpaceX rockets, this body is designed to withstand impacts, resist corrosion, and last decades. Elon Musk called it literally bulletproof. But in the world of crash safety, indestructibility is not a virtue, it is a problem. And in Europe, it is a disqualifier. European crash safety philosophy is centered around controlled deformation. Cars are designed to crumple during impact, absorbing kinetic energy and preventing it from transferring to passengers or other vehicles. The Cybertruck, by contrast, resists crumpling. It transfers energy rather than absorbing it, turning itself into a battering ram. In tests and simulations, this structural rigidity does not behave like a modern vehicle. It behaves like a weapon. When colliding with a standard European hatchback, the Cybertruck's steel panels do not yield. They overpower. The energy that would normally be absorbed by a crumple zone is instead sent into the passenger compartment of the smaller car. The result? Higher injury rates for everyone involved. This is not speculation. Internal documents show that Tesla engineers were aware of the implications. But the marketing power of a steel tank on wheels overruled the regulatory red flags. Musk even acknowledged the manufacturing challenges of shaping the metal, admitting it cannot be stamped or bent in conventional ways. That rigidity, while striking, makes it difficult to design in safety features like deformation zones or modular crash buffers. Europe has decades of data supporting its vehicle safety laws. The current standards are not arbitrary. They are built on millions of crash test data points and refined through collaboration across 27 nations. For the Cybertruck to enter that system, it would need to be fundamentally redesigned, and Tesla has shown no indication of doing so. Even more concerning, safety experts argue the Cybertruck's design is not only dangerous in a crash, it makes crashes more likely. The lack of visual curves affects how light reflects off the surface, creating glare and unpredictable reflections in bright environments. Combined with the truck's immense size and weight, it becomes a hazard long before the moment of impact. While Tesla continues to tout the exoskeleton as a leap forward, European regulators have made it clear. In its current form, the Cybertruck is a regression. It ignores decades of consensus, prioritizes aesthetics over safety, and poses an unacceptable risk to other road users. The exoskeleton may protect the person inside, but on narrow roads, in mixed traffic environments, or near pedestrians, it turns the Cybertruck into a 4-ton liability. And it only gets worse when you realize most Europeans cannot legally drive it anyway. A driving license disaster. Even if Tesla redesigned the Cybertruck to meet every European safety and design standard, there's one silent deal breaker that remains. Most Europeans legally can't drive it. The reason is deceptively simple. In the European Union, a standard passenger vehicle license, called a Category B, only permits drivers to operate vehicles weighing up to 3,500 kilograms. The Cybertruck's base curb weight comes in at roughly 3,100 kilograms. Add passengers, cargo, or optional equipment, and that figure quickly exceeds the legal threshold. Once it crosses that line, drivers need a Category C1 license, a certification usually reserved for commercial van or delivery truck operators. It requires extra training, testing, and medical clearance. For everyday consumers, it's a major deterrent, and this isn't theoretical. In practice, that licensing barrier has already triggered ripple effects. Dealerships across Germany, the Netherlands, and France have begun canceling Cybertruck pre-orders. Rental agencies have backed out, citing legal complications. Insurance companies are flagging the vehicle as a special use asset, triggering inflated premiums or outright rejections. The result? The Cybertruck isn't just a compliance headache. It's a logistical dead end for most European drivers. Even if regulators greenlit the design, the licensing roadblock would gut Tesla's potential market. The average buyer simply won't jump through commercial license hoops to drive a weekend toy. And the moment you try to bring that weight into the real world, the impracticality becomes undeniable. Because these trucks are not just heavy, the Cybertruck's real-world impracticality. And yet, that is exactly what the Cybertruck resembles when it tries to navigate Europe's tight corners, narrow lanes, and centuries-old infrastructure. With a width of more than 2.2 meters and a curb weight exceeding 3,000 kilograms, the Cybertruck does not just challenge urban planning, it overwhelms it. Parking becomes a logistical nightmare. In major cities like London, Amsterdam, and Barcelona, standard parking spaces are sized for compact cars, not military-grade behemoths. The Cybertruck overhangs curbs, blocks bike lanes, and creates line-of-sight hazards for pedestrians. In some neighborhoods, residents have begun petitioning to block oversized vehicles altogether. Even more alarming, the turning radius of the Cybertruck is poorly suited to roundabouts and tight U-turns common across Europe. In test drives and early video footage, the truck struggled with simple maneuvers that a Fiat 500 handles with ease. And in the chaos of morning traffic or school drop-offs, that lack of agility is not just inconvenient, it is dangerous. The mass and speed of the Cybertruck also raise concerns about road wear. Heavier vehicles degrade surfaces faster, causing potholes and structural fatigue. European municipalities already spend billions annually on road maintenance. Adding fleets of Cybertrucks to the mix would multiply those costs. But perhaps the most visceral reaction comes from pedestrians. Surveys in the United Kingdom and Germany show rising anxiety about large vehicles in urban areas. And when those vehicles look like armored personnel carriers, that anxiety turns to opposition. Protesters have gathered at Tesla showrooms, calling the truck a symbol of American aggression. Vandalism has increased, insurance premiums have surged, and all of this traces back to one central question. Why build a truck that does not fit the places it is supposed to serve? In America, where roads are wide and culture leans toward bigger is better, the Cybertruck might still find a foothold. But in Europe, where practicality, safety, and regulatory compliance are not negotiable, it is being treated less like a breakthrough and more like an invading force. Crashing through regulation, the global impact. In Germany, the Cybertruck was met with clinical skepticism. Engineers and regulators did not see a next-generation pickup truck. They saw a public safety liability wrapped in stainless steel. Germany's Federal Motor Transport Authority reviewed the truck's design specs and flatly concluded it failed multiple European Union safety directives, from lighting compliance to pedestrian protection zones. France echoed that sentiment almost immediately, calling the truck's exoskeleton design unacceptably dangerous for public streets. The truck's mass, width, and lack of conformity certifications shut it out from road use almost overnight. But some of the more damning rejections were silent. Ireland, for instance, did not issue an outright ban. It simply stalled. No vehicle registration pathway was provided. No temporary approval, no diplomatic softening. Tesla's filings were returned with regulatory notes, but no path forward. China, one of the most crucial global markets for electric vehicles, posed a different kind of roadblock. It did not ban the Cybertruck outright, it simply made it impossible to sell. Strict urban vehicle classifications, combined with national safety standards favoring domestic automakers, created a bureaucratic maze Tesla was not willing to navigate. Their withdrawal from the Chinese regulatory process in late 2024 was silent, strategic, and devastating. Tesla quietly shelved Cybertruck ambitions in the largest electric vehicle market in the world. Even countries that made no public statements took private action. Import certifications were quietly denied. Independent safety boards published damning reviews. Regional insurance providers flagged the Cybertruck as a high-risk asset, prompting policy withdrawals or astronomical premium hikes. Whether banned outright or buried in bureaucracy, the Cybertruck faced a global wall of regulatory rejection. It was not just a failed product abroad, it was an unwelcome one. And as this global rejection took root, the consequences became too large for even Tesla. For years, the Tesla brand had been bulletproof, not just in marketing, but in market perception. It stood for forward motion, clean innovation, and sleek disruption. But by early 2025, the Cybertruck had turned that bulletproof identity into a literal, angular liability. In New York, parked Cybertrucks began turning up with slurs and swastikas spray-painted across their panels. In Los Angeles, owners reported their tires slashed and windows broken. On social media platforms, particularly X, the Elon Musk-owned successor to Twitter, the truck was no longer a symbol of technological progress. It was a flashpoint. Insurance companies began canceling policies for Cybertruck owners in Europe, not because of accidents, but because of political unrest. It was not about safety claims, it was about risk assessment. If a vehicle became a magnet for protest or violence, it was no longer insurable under standard terms. In Paris, Zurich, and Vienna, dealerships canceled Cybertruck orders not due to technical failures, but due to protests outside their storefronts. The vehicle was radioactive. Musk's own political entanglements only fueled the fire. His involvement with the Department of Government Efficiency under President Trump, combined with allegations of a Nazi salute during the inauguration, which Musk denied, created a narrative that no marketing campaign could overcome. The Cybertruck, once seen as a futuristic marvel, was now interpreted as an authoritarian symbol. In a matter of months, the Tesla brand had transformed from aspirational to adversarial. Cybertruck owners in conservative American suburbs were still holding onto their vehicles with pride. But in the rest of the world, the brand was bleeding social capital. It no longer unified enthusiasts, it divided them. The image crisis was no longer confined to bad press. It was showing up in quarterly reports. Tesla's market shrinks overnight. Tesla designed the Cybertruck for a global audience. But within weeks of the mass recall in the United States, that ambition was shattered. Without access to foreign markets, Tesla faced a grim reality. All development costs, estimated at over $1 billion, would need to be recovered from a single country. And not just any country, one currently battling its own wave of economic uncertainty and consumer fatigue. In Europe, early reservations were refunded en masse. In China, demand was never allowed to take form. In Australia and Japan, regulatory hurdles made importation financially suicidal. Without a diverse international market to absorb costs, Tesla had lost the key advantage that enabled its previous vehicle successes: scale. Historically, Tesla used global demand to flatten the costs of high-tech components, unique battery designs, and specialized manufacturing techniques. But now, with Cybertruck production limited almost entirely to the United States, the economics no longer worked. American consumers alone could not carry the burden of a failed international launch. Worse yet, Cybertruck sales began to fall even in its last viable market. Negative press, safety concerns, and public backlash created hesitation. Dealerships offering test drives saw appointment cancellations. Buyers who once signed up with blind loyalty were now hesitating over insurance issues and resale values. Tesla did not just lose the world, it began losing its home base. Institutional panic. Investors start to flee for Wall Street. The Cybertruck debacle marked a critical moment. At first, institutional investors viewed the setbacks as temporary. Recalls happen. Regulatory challenges can be overcome. But by the end of the first quarter of 2025, the narrative shifted from cautious optimism to strategic withdrawal. Major funds began divesting from Tesla, not in dramatic single-day sell-offs, but in steady surgical slices. Pension managers and tech-heavy ETFs cited governance issues, brand instability, and most of all, Elon Musk's divided attention. With Musk juggling SpaceX, Neuralink X, and now a cabinet-level government position, investor confidence hit its lowest point since the Model 3 production crisis. Tesla's stock plummeted by over 40% in just a few months. That translated to more than $300 billion in lost market value. Analysts began revising their price targets downward. Credit rating agencies flagged the growing cost of the recall and its potential impact on Tesla's cash reserves. What had once been an invincible innovation engine now looked vulnerable. The question was no longer if the Cybertruck would succeed. It was how much damage it would do confidence now worked against him. His tweets defending the Cybertruck only stoked the controversy. His appearances at political rallies alienated moderate investors. Even longtime Tesla loyalists, both on Wall Street and in the consumer base, began to admit this might have been a bet too far. And with each passing week, that bet looked less like disruption and more like hubris. The Cybertruck's global rejection was not just a setback, it was a turning point. And as the markets reeled, the world finally saw the consequences of unchecked ambition in real time. The recall that changed everything. It began with a ripple, and it turned into a shockwave. On March 20th, 2025, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration dropped a bombshell. Every single Tesla Cybertruck produced between November of 2023 and February of 2025 was being recalled. The reason? A critical design failure. A strip of stainless steel trim running along the roofline was detaching at highway speeds. This was not just a cosmetic issue. It posed a real threat to safety, turning what was supposed to be a revolutionary electric vehicle into a high-speed liability. The number was staggering. 46,096 Cybertrucks were affected. Tesla didn't mince words. They acknowledged the failure, citing 151 warranty claims, and offered replacements at no cost. But the damage was already done. The part in question had been glued onto the vehicle's ultra-hardened, cold-rolled stainless steel frame. Yes, the same material Elon Musk had boasted was strong enough for SpaceX spacecraft, and yet the solution had been glue. The same kind of adhesive used in mundane consumer products was now a public relations disaster stuck to the side of Tesla's most hyped project. This wasn't just a defect, it was symbolic. It showed how Tesla had overreached in its quest to bend the future. The Cybertruck was marketed as indestructible, futuristic, and unrelenting. But now, images of its panels peeling off like metal eyelids at 75 miles per hour were going viral. The cost? Analysts estimated the total financial impact could soar past $1 billion. This isn't about a truck anymore. It's about Tesla's future. And if the company can't navigate this identity crisis, then what happens next may be bigger than just lost sales. It could redefine how the world sees Elon Musk and the empire he built. Innovation on trial. What this collapse really means. The Cybertruck was sold as the future, a glimpse into what vehicles could be when freed from the constraints of tradition. But what we're witnessing now is not just a product recall or a failed international launch. It is a trial, not in court, but in the court of public opinion, of industry standards, and of global regulation. At the center of it all is Elon Musk, the billionaire visionary who pushed past limits until the limits pushed back. This collapse puts more than just the Cybertruck on the line. It puts Tesla's entire brand at risk. The recall, the bans, the PR disasters, and the surging backlash have coalesced into something far more dangerous than bad headlines. They are eroding the public trust that once made Tesla untouchable. and the timing could not be worse. With global electric vehicle competition surging, Tesla no longer has the advantage of being the only game in town. Rivian, Ford, Hyundai, Volkswagen, and even Chinese automakers are delivering reliable, compliant electric vehicles to markets Tesla is now losing. But beyond competition and regulation lies something more profound. The Cybertruck's failure has reopened the debate over the role of innovation in a rules-based world. Can visionary design thrive without structure? Can a company redefine transportation without first respecting the safety systems designed to protect it? Elon Musk built his career on saying no to limitations. Now those limitations are fighting back. And it doesn't stop with Tesla. Every tech-forward company watching this unfold is quietly recalculating risk. Investors, engineers, regulators, and consumers are absorbing the lesson. Boldness without accountability has a price. And when that boldness moves a 7,000-pound truck at 75 miles per hour with faulty panels and unsafe edges, the price isn't theoretical. It is immediate, legal, and sometimes it means that Tesla is not just being challenged. It is being tested. And if the company cannot weather this storm, it will mark more than the end of one vehicle. It will signal the end of an era, a time when innovation alone was enough to justify the risks. The future will still come, but it will be shaped by those who know how to build it, not just dream it. And for Elon Musk, that may be the hardest lesson of all. But what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comment below, and I will see you in the next video.